Hey guys, what's up? Nick here once again, and today we're going to be going over the top 10 worst Twisted Metal characters in the entire series. So let's get right into it. As always with these top 10 videos or my tier list videos, this is just my opinion. I'm not trying to say that this is the definitive list, or if you think otherwise that you are wrong, but if you do disagree with my list, or even if you agree, let me know in the comment section below what your thoughts of the top 10 worst characters in the entire series are. I love seeing your guys' lists. But with that, let's get into my list. We're going to be starting at number 10, going down the list from the least shittiest to the most shittiest. So at number 10, Kamakazi from Twisted Metal 2012. This was a brand new character to the series, and I hopefully think that it's the last. Kamakazi is pretty much just a carbon copy of Crimson Fury, which is sadly already in the game, which makes them even worse. And not only are they just a carbon copy, they're a little bit slower than Crimson Fury, and they have a little bit less armor. At least in my experience, it feels like they do. The only upside to Kamakazi is if you use them for the race events in the single-player storyline, you can use their freeze bomb to freeze everybody at the beginning and get ahead of the pack. That is literally their only saving grace. Though even the freeze bomb doesn't really work that well in multiplayer, at least from my experience. I could be wrong in this entirely. I know there's a lot of dedicated, hardcore TM 2012 fans out there, and you probably can prove me wrong in the comments below. But for me, Kamakazi was my absolute least favorite character throughout the entire game, and there were some other crappers in there as well, but I still feel Kamakazi takes the cake just for really not needing to be there. Crimson Fury was already decent enough, and they really didn't need a copycat. Number 9 is Flower Power from TM3. I was kind of debating on even putting her on this list, but honestly, going back to it and playing her again, especially for my recent playthrough videos of TM3, I just really dislike her as a character. I think she's fine in essence. I think the idea behind her is okay. I like the design of the vehicle and the design of the special weapon, but everything else is just shit. I mean, her ending wish is just terrible. The amount of damage her special does is also really bad, and on top of that, it's very inaccurate. Most of the time, it just runs right into the floor before it reaches your enemy and does no damage. It also takes a while for your special to regenerate, so it really just makes you feel helpless playing as her. Not only that, but she doesn't have great armor, and her speed and handling are also pretty mid, if not bad. It's really funny. I feel like if they would have given her decent handling with decent speed, she wouldn't be nearly as bad, and I don't think she would ever end up on this list. But the fact that her special is pretty terrible, she's not very fast, she has okay handling, and again, her just character in general is pretty bad. I have to put her at number 9. Number 8 is Grasshopper from TM2. I know a lot of you people might be a little bit surprised this isn't lower on my list, especially that I'm not a huge fan of TM2. But trust me, there are some shitters on this list, and that's the reason Grasshopper is at number 8. But needless to say, they're still pretty bad. I mean, in TM2, they have a really good roster of characters this time around. A lot of people are pretty overpowered, but when you play Grasshopper, you definitely feel underpowered. Not only does she have one of the weakest vehicles in the entire game next to Mr. Grimm, but her entire special relies on doing damage with physical ramming into other characters, and the fact that her armor is already pretty low to begin with, if you're using that to ram other vehicles, which also does damage to you, there's no reason to really use her. So even though I love the design of her vehicle, I like her as a character, and I love her special weapon in the sense of its design, I think it's kind of cool being able to lift off the ground and you fly towards somebody at high speed to ram them. It's just a huge shame that she takes so much damage so easily, and her special doesn't do that much damage to begin with. It really is just a huge detriment to play as this character in TM2. Her handling and speed are okay. I think she could even be a little bit faster, to be honest with you. But everything else is just a huge bummer to play as this character. Number 7, we're looking at Hammerhead from TM3. Now, this was actually kind of a tough choice. I was debating between putting Hammerhead from TM2 in here versus the TM3 version. But going back and playing both these characters, even though Hammerhead still sucks in TM2, I know a lot of TM2 diehards will say Hammerhead's the worst character in the game. I honestly have to put Hammerhead from TM3 above them in the terms of their shit list. Mainly because Hammerhead and TM3, their entire special, just like Grasshopper from TM2, revolves around throwing the vehicle towards an enemy to ram them physically to do damage. Now, thankfully in TM3, the ram damage isn't nearly as strong, if really any ram damage is in the game, so you don't have to worry about your car getting damaged from running into somebody. but the physics really hinder the performance of this special weapon and leave you more vulnerable than not, which literally makes you not want to use her special at all, because almost every single time you hit the special button to fly forward at somebody, you'll hit them, do a little bit of damage, because again, the game really doesn't have ram damage to begin with, and then it launches you, like you just go flying and you'll just end up upside down and you're vulnerable to everyone's attacks, or you'll probably find yourself sliding off the edge into the abyss on certain levels where you can die to fall damage. So yeah, Hammerhead in TM3 is pretty much useless to play if you're playing the vanilla version. Thankfully, she was buffed very heavily in the fan mod made for TM3, which makes her actually a lot of fun to play, but sadly, in the main game of TM3, she's pretty trash. Moving on to number 6, you guys know my distaste for Ugur. Now, the reason Ugur isn't lower on the list is mainly just because they're just mid. They're not terrible, they're just not fun to play as, and that's why I really dislike Ugur. He's very slow, he's super sluggish, his handling and everything sucks. Even his special weapon is not very strong. If his drill lasted a little bit longer, I think his special would be pretty decent, and I don't think I would hate him as much. But the fact that in both TM3 and 4, in which I will say in 4 that with the physics change, he is a little bit better, his special still does not last very long. It's only like maybe 2 seconds you can drill somebody. The other downside to him is if you start the special, so the drill starts up, and you get somebody on the special like a second into it, it doesn't restart the timer to do the max amount of damage on somebody, which is a huge bummer. Whereas characters like Mr. Slam in TM4, you can hit the button, he'll start up his scoop in the front of the car to start going up and down, and even if you hit somebody on the last hit that he does, it'll restart the timer to do the max amount of damage, which is how it should be. And for some reason, Ugur did not get this treatment. On top of that, in TM3, every time you use Ugur's special on somebody, you grab them, it starts drilling them, and then it launches them somewhere. At the same time, for some reason with the physics engine, you get sent flying yourself. So just like with Hammerhead in TM3, you're pretty much putting yourself at a disadvantage every single time you use his special, because it will normally knock you on your ass and you're open to the elements of people just destroying you. So that's why Ugur has always been a pain in the neck to play as. Even if he has decent armor, everything else is pretty trash. Moving on to number 5 is Warhog from Small Brawl. Now this is a very unique character in a lot of ways, and we've thankfully gotten a lot of behind the scenes information from David Goodrich, the lead designer on this game, and he has stated that the reason Warhog is so terrible in Small Brawl was not by design. He was a last-minute ditch effort to save an extra character in the roster, because originally the character was supposed to be Grasshopper, which makes a lot of sense. Based off his design, the size of the vehicle, and the armor the vehicle has, it makes sense why it would have been Grasshopper. However, the last minute, they had to switch it to Warhog because the cinematics and the character design was not finished for Grasshopper, sadly, whereas Warthog's was. So they plastered the name Warhog on it, they changed the color scheme of the vehicle, and they gave it a little 3-missile shooting weapon, just like the classic Warhog special. However, the special is just trash this time around. It's very inaccurate, it almost does little to no damage. It just, sadly, they didn't have the time to buff it, or at least balance out the character to make him fun to play as. So that's why Warhog is pretty much the worst character. He definitely is the worst character in Small Brawl, and he really sticks out like a sore thumb because almost every other character in that game is pretty decent without many flaws. So yeah, Warhog is definitely number 5 on this list. Moving on to number 4 is Microblast from TM4. This again might come to a shock to some of you, especially if you've been with the channel for a long time, because I have a video on my channel about Microblast saying it is the worst character in the entire series, and there's some part of me that still stands by that statement, but after coming back and playing all these games again and messing around with these characters, there are certain aspects of Microblast that are okay to not make him the worst character in the entire series, but he's still definitely on this list. He has by far the weakest armor in the entire game. He's extremely tiny, which can be kind of a good thing because his hitbox is a lot harder to hit. However, the AI doesn't care. They can still hit you almost every single time, and you just get squashed like a bug, which makes sense for his size. But the biggest downside to Microblast by far is his special weapon. Almost every character in this game has a pretty weak special weapon, to be honest with you, but there are some that stand out as pretty decent. Microblast stands out as literally a speed missile, which is a missile anybody else in the game can get. They do very increments amount of damage. And the way that his special works is, yes, you can essentially charge up, I think up to 100, I could be wrong on this, it's around there, 100 of his special weapons to shoot in succession because speed missiles shoot so fast, which in essence sounds kind of cool because you could just freeze somebody and then unload your entire special weapon on somebody like a Gatling gun, which is literally what his special weapon is. However, in practice, they don't shoot fast enough, and they do such little amount of damage that even if you get 100 missiles on somebody without missing a bullet, which is basically impossible, you're pretty much only going to take maybe 1/8 of their health away, which is just insane to think about how long it would take to generate 100 of his special weapons. So yeah, that's why Microblast to me is absolute trash tier and why he is number 4 on this list. Again, he would have been lower on the list if not for these next 3 terrible characters. Number 3 is Pit Viper from Twisted Metal 1. Now, Pit Viper really sticks out as a sore thumb in TM1, and that's why they're so low on this list. I like the idea of the character of Pit Viper. I don't mind the design of the character. Again, it's where Grasshopper was taken from in TM2, but it's just a shame that Pit Viper is literally just a shittier version of Mr. Grimm in this game. She pretty much has the exact same amount of armor as Mr. Grimm. She's not as fast, doesn't have as good handling, and her special weapon is essentially the exact same thing, where it's just a straight shot power missile, but it does literally half, if not less than that, the damage of Mr. Grimm's special. So in reality, it's like, why would you ever play as Pit Viper when you have Mr. Grimm? They're both very weak glass cannon characters. However, Mr. Grimm actually has a special that's worth using and does a decent amount of damage, where hers is straight up trash. So yeah, Pit Viper just gets the shit out of the stick in TM1, and they really stick out as the worst character in the game, and by far in the top 3 worst characters of all time in Twisted Metal. And moving on to number 2, we're coming down to the wire here, folks, which is Captain Grimm in TM4. Now, even though I love TM4 for a lot of reasons and for its creativity with a lot of the characters, we cannot deny that they totally butchered my boy, Mr. Grimm. I don't know where their thought process was here. I wish we could get some type of answers from somebody who made this game onto what happened with Captain Grimm and where the idea came from. But my God, he is horrible. This is the only game in the entire series where Mr. Grimm is not driving a motorcycle. I guess you can count 2012 as another game in the series where you can see Mr. Grimm riding a different vehicle, but I'm not going to count that as canon. So yeah, this is the only game where Mr. Grimm is not on a motorcycle. He's in like a regular vehicle. It looks like a pirate ship almost. Very stupid design. I've never liked it. He's not very fast. He's just medium speed. His handling is just okay, which are 2 major factors that are complete opposites of what Mr. Grimm is known for. And on top of that, his special weapon is absolute trash. It's still just a straight shot power missile, but it does literally half the amount of damage as a regular power missile. The only benefit to it is it can leave the enemy on fire, but they usually use turbo to get out of it immediately anyway, so it's just like, what's the point? So yeah, his special is very much probably the biggest reason he's such a downside to this game, but on top of that, it's just he's not fast, he's not good at handling, his special weapon just sucks ass, and his character itself is very annoying and stupid. Even though his ending movie is kind of epic, I'm not gonna lie, his character overall still sucks. So yeah, he is definitely number 2 on the list of top 10 worst characters in Twisted Metal because he's just such a major disappointment. All right, drum roll please. We are coming to the number 1 spot on the top 10 worst characters in Twisted Metal. I wonder if you guys can guess it in the comment section below. I'd love to have you guys guess it right now before actually getting the answer. So without further ado, number 1 is going to be ATV in Twisted Metal Head On. On top of that, I'm also going to add Cousin Eddie in this as well. I know it's kind of cheating having 2 people as number 1, but they're both just so trashed here and so terrible, I can't put them any higher on the list. So yeah, this is both ATV and Cousin Eddie. So Cousin Eddie, we'll get him out of the way really quick. He is a mid-tier boss in Twisted Metal Head On. He pretty much took the spot of Minion, and he is just terrible. When you unlock him as a character, he's just a giant motorhome. He's just a giant target, really. His special weapon does little to no damage. It's just the same special weapon as Darkseid from Twisted Metal Black, but it does no damage whatsoever. And then his machine guns are little tiny homing missiles if you're playing the PS2 version, which they do okay damage, but they're pretty much useless. His speed is terrible, his handling is atrocious, and his armor is actually pretty bad, ironically. So yeah, Cousin Eddie is literal trash. And then ATV on top of that is even worse, because they are trying to be Mr. Grimm. I gotta give them a little bit of credit for trying to make another character that's riding on a vehicle that's open to the elements, like Axel and Mr. Grimm on a motorcycle. And I like the idea of a person on an ATV in the Twisted Metal series. However, the execution was just absolutely terrible. This dude has worse armor than Mr. Grimm somehow. He's slower, doesn't have as good as handling, and his special weapon literally does basically no damage. I just don't understand the thought process here. His special weapon is a shotgun. It shoots 2 little bolts of pellets outside of the car. It's got very short range, and it's one of those special weapons, just like Mr. Grimm, that's like a power missile. You have to aim it perfectly to get any damage on somebody. But even if you get a direct hit with somebody, it does piss damage. It's just like, why? If he had a better special weapon, I don't think ATV would be looked at as bad of a character as he is. But the fact that his special weapon is literally just trash, his speed is not that great, his handling is not that great, and his armor is, you can flick him and he'll die. He is by far the worst character in the entire series of Twisted Metal, by far. He is a pain and a slog to play as. I don't understand why anybody in their right mind would ever think this is their favorite character, or even a good character. Everybody I know who has ever played Twisted Metal head-on can tell you for a fact ATV is absolute trash as a character. And on top of that, he's an unlockable, I believe. I don't think he is unlocked by default. So you also have to go through a bullshit minigame to unlock this character. So that just adds more salt on the wound. So yeah, ATV is the #1 worst character in the game. What do you guys think? Is my list all right? Do you agree with it? Do you not agree with it? Either way is totally fine, but let me know in the comment section below your top 10 worst characters in the entire series. I would love to see what you guys think. Thank you so much again for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video. Make sure to leave a like, share, support as always. Subscribe so you don't miss the next one. And we'll hopefully see you in the next one. Peace out, everyone. Thank you guys so much for making it to the end of the video. Before we head out, I want to give a huge special thank you to our channel members. These are amazing people who are wanting to support the channel and the content here. And if you want to do the same, you can click the little join button underneath every single new upload. And in becoming a channel member not only supports me and the channel, but also gives you a ton of perks in doing so, including early access to new content and being a part of exclusive polls and information that other people would not be able to access. So, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Thank you again so much for the love and support, and we'll hopefully see you in the next one. Peace out.